Did you know that every time you ask an AI a single question, it drinks nearly half a liter of water? That's not a metaphor, that's physics. Every query you type into ChatGPT or Google Bard, every image generated by an algorithm, requires powerful data centers to cool themselves. And those cooling systems rely on water. A lot of it. In 2022, Microsoft's data centers consumed 1.7 billion gallons of fresh water, enough to supply over 50,000 American homes for a year. Google used nearly 5 billion gallons in the same period, and that was before the AI boom, before the race to make machines that can think, write, and create. Now the world's most advanced algorithms are quietly drinking the planet dry, and no one is talking about it. Artificial intelligence isn't just powered by data and electricity, it's powered by water, the invisible ingredient that keeps the digital world alive. Each time a data center processes AI requests, it generates enormous heat. To stop servers from melting down, companies flood cooling towers with clean, drinkable water. It's the cheapest, fastest way to keep machines from burning themselves. But what happens when millions of those requests come from billions of people? When the thirst for AI becomes global? The answer lies in a single number. According to the University of California, training OpenAI's GPT-4, the very engine behind this AI revolution, consumed over 700,000 liters of fresh water. Not energy, not money, water. That's enough to fill an Olympic swimming pool. Just to teach a machine how to speak. The world's data centers sit in quiet places, on the outskirts of American towns, far from the skyscrapers of Silicon Valley. Take Council Bluffs, Iowa. A Google complex there hums day and night, drawing millions of gallons from local aquifers to cool its processors. The same underground water that farmers depend on, the same water families use for their wells. In the Dalles, Oregon, Google signed a secret deal to tap into the city's water system. A deal so controversial that local residents demanded the records be unsealed. When they were, people realized the scale of the draw. In a region already suffering from drought, Google's AI expansion meant choosing between servers and citizens. In Arizona, one of the driest states in America, Microsoft built a series of sustainable data centers, but even there they required tens of millions of gallons every year. Local farmers protested. They said, "Our fields are dying, but the cloud is growing." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The digital cloud runs on physical water. Experts now warn that by 2030, global data center water consumption could triple. And the United States is leading that charge. Over 2,700 data centers operate across the country. Each one burns power, demands cooling, and swallows clean water. In some towns, utilities are already struggling to keep up. When a single facility needs more water than an entire neighborhood, you begin to see the imbalance of modern progress. It's not malicious, it's mathematical. AI models are multiplying in size every few months. Every upgrade means more servers, more heat, more cooling, more water. And because these centers are often built near rivers or reservoirs, they compete directly with the public supply. In West Des Moines, officials approved special water permits for Microsoft's AI centers. When questioned, the company said it was necessary to support innovation. But residents saw their wells running lower each summer. The innovation came at a quiet cost. Big tech loves to talk about sustainability. Carbon-neutral data centers, renewable power, green computing, but very few mention water. Because water doesn't burn, it disappears. Microsoft, Amazon, and Google all promise to be water positive by 2030, meaning they'll replenish more than they consume. But how do you replenish an aquifer that takes centuries to refill? How do you replace a drought season that never ends? Some have tried using recycled or seawater. Others claim their water isn't wasted because it evaporates and returns to nature. But evaporation doesn't help when the same region faces emergency restrictions on household use. A mother in Oregon can't water her garden, while an AI model drinks thousands of gallons to learn how to paint a picture. The ethics are becoming impossible to ignore. This isn't just an environmental issue, it's an economic and social one. In the Midwest, water is abundant, for now. That's why data centers are spreading there. But in the West and Southwest, where every drop counts, the competition is heating up. Farmers depend on water to feed America. Cities depend on it to survive the next drought. Now big tech depends on it to feed algorithms, and the pipelines that carry it can only flow one way at a time. Some local governments have already begun pushing back. Communities in New Mexico, California, and Washington have demanded transparency. How much water are these facilities really using? What happens when supplies run dry? And who gets priority, the machines or the people? No clear answers, only contracts and silence. Every empire in history was built on a critical resource. Rome had grain, Britain had coal, America had oil. The new empire, the digital one, is built on data. But data alone isn't enough. It needs water to survive. And as AI becomes central to the economy, the power to control water becomes the power to control intelligence itself. That's why companies aren't just building data centers. They're buying water rights. In parts of the Midwest, big tech firms have quietly purchased land above key aquifers. Not for farming, not for housing, but for guaranteed access to groundwater. Private control of public necessity, a pattern humanity has seen before. When energy companies secured oil fields in the 20th century, they shaped the world's geopolitics. Now water may do the same for the 21st. Behind every statistic is a human story. In Oregon, families saw their river levels fall after Google expanded operations. In Iowa, residents noticed their water bills rise as Microsoft's consumption surged. In Arizona, local farmers filed petitions, warning that data centers were draining shared resources. Each case seemed small on its own, but together they paint a picture of a nation slowly trading its most precious resource for digital power. We once believed technology would free us from scarcity, but what if the opposite is true? What if the smarter our machines become, the thirstier they grow? For every megawatt of power used by AI servers, thousands of gallons of water are lost to cooling. For every innovation, there is evaporation. AI doesn't drink directly, but it consumes indirectly. And that's the paradox of progress. The systems built to optimize our future might be quietly exhausting the foundation of life itself. Few people realize this because water has no digital trace. It leaves no carbon footprint, no visible smoke, no sound. It vanishes quietly into the air, like a secret the world hasn't yet decided to face. History repeats itself in different forms. The 1800s saw the railroads monopolize transport. The 1900s saw oil monopolize energy. The 2000s saw data monopolize information. Now, as AI becomes the lifeblood of the next economy, water could become the hidden monopoly beneath it all. And just like every past empire that ignored its foundation, ours may one day discover that progress built on depletion cannot last. This is the unseen cost of the AI revolution, the hidden thirst behind every line of code, every digital dream. The machines we built to process information now compete with us for the most ancient element on Earth. And this is only the beginning. Because what comes next is not just the consumption of water, it's the ownership of it. The numbers were alarming. But the bigger story, the one buried behind the data, was how the same companies promising innovation were quietly securing control over the very water that made it possible. This wasn't just consumption anymore. It was acquisition, ownership, a silent race to control the world's most essential resource. In the past decade, while the public marveled at cloud computing, big tech was buying land. Not for offices, not for housing, but for what lay underneath: water rights. In Arizona, Google and Meta negotiated exclusive groundwater access deals. In Texas, Amazon purchased vast plots near reservoirs, citing data infrastructure. In Iowa and Nebraska, Microsoft acquired property directly above rich aquifers, locations chosen not for proximity to talent or technology hubs, but for the promise of endless water. Each deal was cloaked in corporate language: investment zones, sustainability hubs, innovation corridors. But behind those phrases were legal contracts granting the right to extract millions of gallons every year. Few residents knew, until the wells started drying. The small town of The Dalles, Oregon, was once known for its orchards and river views. Then came Google. When citizens began asking how much water the company was using, the city refused to answer. citing corporate confidentiality. It took 2 years and a lawsuit by local journalists for the truth to emerge. The records showed Google had been consuming over a quarter of the city's total water supply for AI data processing, in a region already battling record drought. The community was furious. One resident said, "We gave up our water for search results." Yet this was not an isolated case, it was a blueprint. Across the US, similar agreements exist, signed quietly, hidden in appendices, approved in late-night council meetings where no one in the audience understood the scale. In West Des Moines, Microsoft received special permits guaranteeing priority water during shortages. In Goodyear, Arizona, Amazon's facility gained access to municipal supplies even as the city enforced residential restrictions. In Nevada, data centers were granted tax breaks and exclusive pumping rights, the kind usually reserved for agriculture or public utilities. The reasoning sounded practical: tech jobs, investment, digital growth. But water doesn't multiply like data. It runs out. Each new data center meant a new strain on the system, and each approval locked in a contract that would last decades. Then came a new twist. Wall Street joined the game. In 2020, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange launched the world's first water futures market. Investors could now bet on the price of water the same way they bet on oil or gold. Suddenly, the scarcity of water wasn't just a climate concern. It was a business opportunity. And big tech, with its immense consumption, became both a customer and a stakeholder. Their growing need turned them into power players in a market few people even knew existed. In financial terms, controlling water meant controlling volatility. In practical terms, it meant controlling life. To reduce dependence on public utilities, some companies began building their own private reservoirs and pumping systems. Microsoft's Quincy, Washington complex constructed water pipelines directly from the Columbia Basin aquifer. Amazon's new data centers in Virginia, Data Center Alley, negotiated their own wells and backup water tanks. Google invested in water recycling systems, but also secured additional surface water rights for redundancy. Each step made them more independent, more self-sufficient, and less accountable. Because when a corporation owns its own water, it no longer needs to ask permission, only forgiveness. The public versus private divide. For decades, Americans assumed water was a public right, a shared resource, protected by local and federal law. But as climate pressures mount and consumption grows, that assumption is breaking down. In parts of California, residents face fines for watering lawns, while industrial users continue without restriction. In Arizona, entire housing developments were halted because there wasn't enough groundwater left. Yet nearby data centers kept operating without pause. The message is becoming clear: who controls water controls survival. And big tech is positioning itself at the top of that hierarchy. The greenwashing narrative. To deflect criticism, the corporations launched glossy campaigns: water positive by 2030, replenishment initiatives, community resilience projects. The language was comforting, but the math was not. In many cases, the replenishment meant funding irrigation projects in other countries or restoring wetlands hundreds of miles away from the areas they drained. Symbolic gestures for a local problem. When questioned, a Google spokesperson said, "Our goal is to return more water to the environment than we use." But returning water doesn't refill an aquifer. It doesn't restore a river diverted for cooling towers. It only restores the illusion of responsibility. Historical echoes. The last time a few companies gained control over a critical natural resource, it changed the course of history. John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil controlled energy. Carnegie and Morgan controlled steel and finance. Today, a new class of corporate titans controls information and increasingly water. The parallels are chilling. Back then, monopolies shaped nations. Now they're shaping ecosystems, because water isn't just an input, it's existence itself. And when it becomes privatized, democracy starts to evaporate. Local leaders are waking up to the realization. Communities are asking for transparency. But the pace of AI expansion is faster than regulation, faster than awareness. Every new language model, Every AI upgrade means new servers, new cooling plants, and new water pipelines. By the time most Americans realize what's happening, the ownership of their water might already be locked behind legal agreements. Once again, the same cycle of history repeats. An innovation built for progress becomes a monopoly built on necessity. And the question remains, when the next drought hits, who will have access to the water? The townspeople or the machines? The race for intelligence has become a race for control. Control of data, control of land, control of water. And while the public marvels at what AI can create, the real story lies beneath the surface, in the quiet pipelines, the sealed contracts, and the rivers that no longer reach the sea. Because the future isn't being coded in silicon, it's being written in water. Analysts warn that by 2035, water scarcity could halt AI expansion in entire regions. Data centers that today hum quietly may cease operations, not from power outages, but because water, the invisible lifeblood of their systems, simply won't be available. Governments may respond in drastic ways. Some nations could nationalize water rights, reclaiming control from corporations. Others might enforce strict water quotas, legally limiting AI operations, essentially putting machines on rations while humans scramble to survive. Imagine a city in Arizona or California where residents face rationing, and yet miles away, AI servers sip millions of gallons daily to stay online. Schools, hospitals, and farms compete against machines that never sleep, never eat, but drink endlessly. Meanwhile, private water markets are emerging with unprecedented speed. Billionaires, hedge funds, and corporations are buying access to aquifers and freshwater lands, turning water into the 21st century equivalent of oil. Boone Pickens' West Texas investment during the 2011 drought, which netted $103 million, illustrates just how lucrative controlling water can be. Countries rich in water are positioning themselves as future global powers. Canada, Brazil, and Russia possess more renewable fresh water than all of Europe. The US, India, China, and Africa combined. With this leverage, they could dictate who gets AI services, food, and technology, creating a world where water becomes the ultimate currency. The consequences are more than economic. Farmers in Arizona and Iowa are protesting local data centers for draining wells faster than nature can replenish them. Ordinary citizens could face rationing, while corporations quietly siphon millions of gallons to power AI systems. Entire industries may shift to imported food and water-intensive products, making nations dependent on foreign water-rich powers. Visualize it. Maps of global water stress zones overlaid with AI data center locations, arrows showing water-rich nations exporting water-intensive goods to thirsty regions. Rivers shrink, aquifers drop, crops fail, cities ration water. Meanwhile, AI thirst grows exponentially. The ethical question is stark. Who deserves to drink, humans or machines? Ordinary people may soon find themselves competing directly with algorithms for a resource that determines life itself. Throughout history, empires have risen on oil, gold, and trade routes. Now, in the 21st century, water is becoming the new foundation of power. Big tech promised to make humanity smarter, more connected, more efficient. Yet, in pursuing that promise, they may be creating a world thirstier than ever. The same corporations advocating sustainability are simultaneously depleting aquifers faster than they can replenish. They are building digital empires while the real world suffers shortages, droughts, and rationing. And yet hope exists. Innovation, conservation, and technology could still mitigate the crisis. Cities like Cape Town prove that strict water restrictions can reverse shortages. More efficient agricultural methods like subsurface irrigation can drastically reduce water waste. Desalination plants, though expensive, offer a long-term solution to provide fresh water where nature falls short. But the question remains, will humanity act fast enough? Or will the thirst of AI and the ambitions of corporations shape a future where access to water, not technology, decides survival? The coming decades will reveal whether technology will serve us or whether it will consume the very resource that allows life itself to continue. Because in the end, the most advanced algorithm in the world cannot drink a single drop of water. but it can influence every drop we rely on. And that is the true frontier, a race for water, competition for survival, and a test of whether humanity can balance progress with preservation. Other countries are watching. Water scarcity isn't just an American problem, it's a global warning. Nations can learn from US challenges. Prioritize water for people first, not machines. Invest in efficient cooling and recycling technologies before crises hit. Create transparent water rights systems, ensuring corporations cannot monopolize resources. Plan long-term, linking water management to AI and industrial growth. Countries like Israel and Singapore show it's possible. They've combined innovation with strict conservation policies, ensuring water security while still supporting technology. The lesson is clear. Innovation must serve humanity, not compete with it. As we look forward, the question lingers. Are we creating a smarter world or a thirstier one? The future depends on the choices we make today. Who will we prioritize? Humans or machines? If this story mattered to you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this documentary so more people can see what's at stake.